Welcome to your December 2021 astrology forecast. My name is Cailin, and today I'm going to be covering the major transits for the month ahead using tropical astrology and the whole sign system. Before I get into your reading today, I just wanted to announce that I've finally released my 2022 yearly horoscopes, and I've actually got a sale on these for the first 2 weeks of December. These horoscopes are about an hour and a half in length, and they normally retail for $16.99, but for the first 2 weeks of December only, you'll be able to purchase yours for $12.99. I recommend that you watch your ascendant sun and moon sign horoscopes, but if you're only going to purchase one today, I would start with your ascendant sign. Now, I've also got a sale on the 12 pack of horoscopes, which is over 18 hours in length of footage, and these will be available for $49.99. And now let's get into your horoscopes. For those of you who are familiar with my monthly horoscopes, obviously the format is a little bit different this month. Normally I would do 12 individual horoscopes for the 12 zodiac signs, but for December only I will be doing an interpretation of the major transits, and then my horoscopes will be at the end in order from Aries through to Pisces, and I will eventually provide timestamps for you as well. But let's have a look at the major transits for December first and foremost. We've got the total solar eclipse in Sagittarius, we've got Venus retrograde in Capricorn, we have Venus and Pluto making 2 conjunctions in December, we've got the third and final square between Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus, and we're also going to have Jupiter re-entering Pisces. So there's a lot to unpack this month. But as usual, let's start from the top. On the 4th of December, there will be a total solar eclipse at 12 degrees in Sagittarius. Now, this solar eclipse will be making a pretty close conjunction to Mercury at 15 degrees Sagittarius. It will be trining Saturn in Aquarius at 9 degrees. And of course, we've got to look at what the ruler of the eclipse is doing, which is Jupiter. So Jupiter will be in Aquarius at 25 degrees. Now, to get an idea of how this total solar eclipse is going to impact us as a collective, we need to look at what Sagittarius represents. Sagittarius is associated with teaching, international travel, import and export. It's associated with publications and publishing. It's associated with seeking the truth. It's associated with court systems, spirituality, religion, influential figures, and it is also associated with prophecy and seeing our vision for the future and seeing the bigger picture. This total solar eclipse is going to bring about new forms of educating ourselves on these topics, and that is because the eclipse is conjunct Mercury. Obviously, Mercury is in full in the sign of Sagittarius, but it doesn't matter because this is about us letting go of our old ways of learning. This is about us letting go of news sources and media that we used to subscribe to. This is going to weaken large social media platforms that are already in existence, and that is because Mercury represents social media, and we've got the South Node being in Sagittarius. So this total solar eclipse is about letting go of the old to embrace something new. So what is being ushered in with this total solar eclipse is our reintroduction to astrology, philosophy. This is our reacquaintance with our higher self and with our moral, ethical code. This represents us sharing information because Jupiter is in Aquarius, and this is supported by this eclipse sextiling Saturn, which represents there being a foundation that is built with this solar eclipse. This solar eclipse will be founded on a solid structure of revolutionizing the ways in which we seek out information and the ways in which we teach. Now, because eclipses have 19-year cycles, and this is a total solar eclipse and it's a new moon solar eclipse, we are going to see there being incredible changes to the court systems over the next 19 years. There will be huge changes to schools and education over the next 19 years. Astrology will well and truly flourish again. It will be in full bloom. There will be astrology schools, I'm sure of it. And because this solar eclipse is at 12 degrees, which is the Piscean degree, this is all about us embracing spirituality once more. Now, because this solar eclipse is with the South Node, this is about letting go of something. So this shows that religion will be weakened over the next 19 years because Sagittarius represents religion, and this solar eclipse has the ruler being Jupiter in Aquarius, which is about freedom of information, the distribution of information. This total solar eclipse will be built upon sharing truth and sharing information and not being censored. This total solar eclipse will see us operating within the realm of what a society should be built upon and the values that a society should be built upon, which is fairness, fair trade. This is about freedom of information, freedom of speech. This is about the freedom to move wherever we want. Now, Sagittarius represents ideas and belief systems. What is more powerful than a person being motivated by their beliefs? Sagittarius represents our inspiration. Now, because this total solar eclipse is conjunct Mercury, which represents learning new skills and learning new talents, this shows that on a personal level, each of us is going to discover something new that inspires us to want to take action and that inspires us to want to learn enough to be able to use these skills in a practical way. Mercury represents the lower mind. It's about trivia and details. Sagittarius, like I said earlier, is about seeing the bigger picture. So this is about you having the tools, which is Mercury, to change your life and to basically shape it in the way that you want to see for your future, which is represented by Sagittarius. Now, this particular total solar eclipse has a very Aryan flavor, and that is because 12 degrees in Sagittarius falls within the Aries decan. And what's more is that Jupiter at 25 degrees represents the Aries degree. So this is about fighting for our freedom of speech. This is about fighting for the freedom to have any belief that we want to have. This is about fighting for our accessibility to education and to honest teachers and to information that is true. And this is because Sagittarius represents truth. Now, this particular total solar eclipse will have such a profound impact on anyone who is a spiritual figure, a religious figure, a teacher, an influential figure, just generally speaking, and anyone who is involved in ruling over the court system. So, think about judges and justices. There's going to be huge shifts in these departments, generally speaking, but also on an individual level. And of course, the ninth house represents air travel. So we're going to see some crazy new changes coming through over the next 19 years. Now, Venus will be retrograde in Capricorn from the 19th of December through till the 29th or the 30th of January, depending where you live in the world. So I want to analyze this first, and then I'll go into the Venus-Pluto conjunction. Essentially, we need to look at what Venus represents and what Capricorn represents. Venus is all about relationships, love, beauty, art, music, women. It represents the divine feminine. Venus represents our relationship to food, our relationship to feeling attractive, our relationship to money and wealth and resources. But it also flat out represents money, wealth, and resources. Now, Venus is also associated with cooperation and diplomacy and harmony and the five senses. Now, Venus is also associated with materialism and superficiality. That's shadow side Venus. Now, if we're looking at Capricorn, Capricorn represents structure, status, influence. It represents power. It represents leadership, and it also represents authority figures. Now, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which has a very restrictive energy, and it's all about limitations and obstacles. So with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn, this is about undoing some of those things or reevaluating some of those things. So this is about looking at how are we controlling ourselves with food, or how are we allowing ourselves to be controlled by food? They're two sides of the same coin. So this can see you, analyzing and having a breakthrough when it comes to why you emotionally eat. Or this can see you basically doing a deep dive into issues that you may have with disordered eating or with an eating disorder. Now, Venus represents beauty and art. It rules over our aesthetic, and it also rules over fashion and design. So with Venus being retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, this transit is asking you to ask yourself, why do I restrict myself with how I dress? Why do I feel like I cannot wear this color or wear this thing or express myself in this way? Why do I feel like I can't dance when I go to parties? Why am I restricting myself when it comes to relationships? Venus represents love and relationships. Venus in Capricorn is like giving you crumbs. So with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn, this is about you analyzing why you feel that you are undeserving of love. Capricorn, being ruled by Saturn, represents lack and scarcity and rigidity. So this shows there being a stiffening when it comes to the idea of relationships, or when it comes to the idea of letting someone into your life on a deep and emotional level. The sign of Capricorn is about building up walls. So this Venus retrograde is about tearing down those walls. And the Venus-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn will help you to do that. Now, Capricorn represents the father, and it also represents authority figures. And when I say father, this can be your actual father, or this can be father figures, or the archetype. So essentially, with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn, this can see you on one level reconnecting to your father, or reestablishing that relationship, or tearing it down so that it can be built back up. But on a different level, this can see you analyzing how your relationship with your father has led to you experiencing a lack when it comes to self-love, romantic relationships, what you eat, how you dress, how you express yourself. And also Venus is about the sweetness of life. So are you not allowing yourself to start a dance class, or to go to a drawing class, or to do something just for the sake of enjoyment? Now, Venus being retrograde in Capricorn can show where you have made too many concessions to authority figures, and that is because Venus represents diplomacy and harmony. Now, the relationship to Capricorn represents there being an imbalance, because Capricorn is about authority figures and power and control. So how have you allowed authority figures or influential, powerful figures in your life to control you when it comes to what you want to do with your career, which is represented by Capricorn, who you should be in a relationship with, which is Venus, what you eat, how you dress, how you express yourself. Maybe some of you want to dress flamboyantly, or you want to get a crazy haircut, or you just want to shake up your appearance, but you are trying to mold yourself to fit into a professional world, or a corporate world, or a world which is dominated by the mundane, or by dull colors, or just dullness in general. So Venus being retrograde in Capricorn can show where we are repressing ourselves in terms of our self-expression. Now, Capricorn, in terms of the archetype, represents being a miser, and it represents basically the opposite of Venusian energy. So this can show you having not wanted to indulge in yourself, not getting a makeover, not getting a massage, not buying new clothes, not indulging in anything creative. And I know some of this sounds superficial, but it isn't. We have physical bodies, we live in the physical world. Creating something or observing something beautiful actually connects us to ourselves. It connects us to our higher self. So this particular retrograde period can see you basically re-evaluating and restructuring your relationships in love, to money, to self-expression, to creativity, to authority figures, to how much of an importance you place on your career. And of course, it can go the other way. Some of you may have limited yourself when it comes to your career. Maybe you didn't want to go for the top job. Maybe you're not applying to be a manager. Maybe you haven't started your own company because you've been fearful about what other people will think of you. Now, on a more practical level, Venus being retrograde can show you rebranding your business. It can show you restructuring your business. Venus being retrograde can see you disregarding certain partnerships and alliances that you have with other people or with other brands or with other companies, or you could be reintroducing old ones into the mix. Now, another way that this can play out is that some of you may be receiving promotions, or you may be receiving a pay rise, and that is because Venus represents finances and resources and wealth. And, Capricorn represents our position in society. So once we have reevaluated our own self-worth, this is where we can start being remunerated for our actual worth. So I'm sure that many people during this period of time are going to ask for what they deserve, and they're going to treat themselves to what they deserve. So this is a perfect time for you to indulge yourself in something luxurious, whether this is an expensive night out, going out to a nice dinner, buying yourself something nice, or starting up some kind of creative class. Now, if you have felt trapped in a very corporate job, but you've been wanting to do something which is more to do with the arts, whether this is singing, dancing, creating, painting, or literally anything that comes under the umbrella term the arts, this is a great time for you to do so. Now, another way that this can play out is that with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn, this can see us redesigning what we want to achieve in our future. Capricorn represents building a legacy and building an empire. So this is about you having the vision, having the knowledge, and then having the creativity to be able to bring this vision into fruition. Now, if we're looking at this conjunction between Venus and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, well, Pluto actually has a lot of overlap with Capricornian energy in that it is associated with power, control, status, and Pluto represents manipulation. So this Venus and Pluto conjunction can basically unearth how we are being manipulated by the government, which is Capricorn. It can represent there being natural disasters, and that is because Pluto is already associated with natural disasters. I'm talking volcano eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, all kinds of natural disasters are associated with Pluto. Now, Venus has a connection to Earth because Venus is basically representative of Mother Earth, and Venus also represents food. So this particular conjunction can see there being natural disasters which have a negative impact on crops. Venus represents crops, it represents the food industry, so there can be some kind of disaster that takes place which is going to impact the food chain supply. Now, Capricorn represents old traditions, it represents government, it represents just old things generally, and Pluto is associated with archaeology, as is, Saturn itself. So essentially this is going to show that we're able to dig something old up and it can be reborn or it can be rejuvenated in some way. So in ancient astrology, Saturn is associated with ancient knowledge and the initiation process. So this can see there being ancient texts or ancient knowledge which is discovered as a result of an unearthing that takes place with this Venus-Pluto conjunction, and this can see us actually discovering something which was buried, like physically buried, and maybe this is coming as a result of a natural disaster and it's literally unearthing something. But on a personal level, this conjunction between Venus and Pluto can see there being a reclaiming of your sexuality. And that is because Pluto basically represents fear and shame. And in its lowest vibration, Pluto is associated with criminals. It is associated with sexual assaults. It is associated with taking our power away and manipulation on a large scale. This can show there being a reclaiming of one's sexuality or of sexuality in general. There can be a reclaiming of the divine feminine. And there will be secrets that are unearthed during this period of time, or there will be truths that have been buried which will need to be rediscovered and which will need to come out into the open. So on a personal level, this can see there being family secrets, because Capricorn and Cancer operate on the father-mother axes. So family secrets can come out, or there can be some kind of big disruption to your family traditions in some way, shape, or form. Now, on a more personal level, this can show where we have felt controlled by sexuality, whether this is some kind of sexual assault that took place, or whether this is you being manipulated with sex by your significant other, or maybe you experienced this in the past. Venus and Pluto being conjunct in the sign of Capricorn basically represents sexuality, power, control, shame, fear. But then on the positive side, it represents the reclaiming of our personal power. It represents the transformation which comes after deep inner healing and psychological work. So this conjunction can see you healing on such a deep and powerful level and basically claiming your power back. And, after these three conjunctions have taken place, this can see you feeling more liberated, feeling more creative, more artistic. You'll be able to accept love into your life. You will have redefined your worth in all relationships, whether these are romantic, platonic, friendship, or in the workplace. And this conjunction can basically see the veil being lifted for when it comes to how we have been manipulated by food, sex, power, influence, and the government. So essentially, this is going to be such an explosive period of time on a personal level and on a collective level. Now, on the 23rd or 24th of December, depending where you live in the world, we're going to see the final square take place between Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. So this will form at 11 degrees, and we saw the first square form on the 17th or 18th of February at 7 degrees, and the second square was on the 15th of June at 13 degrees. So the signs who will be most impacted by this will be the fixed signs, which are Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. But of course, if you have any personal placements or personal planets in those signs, you will be feeling this pretty strongly. Now, if we cast our minds back to around February and June, you'll be able to see some kind of common theme or thread of something that you were trying to introduce into your life. So this could be changing careers, moving house. Maybe there were issues within your family dynamics or between you and a significant other. And basically, something that we've been trying to initiate or bring to fruition since around the beginning of the year in February is going to reach its peak or some kind of climax around Christmas time. So I'll use myself as an example. From the beginning of the year, and especially around February, around the time of the first square, I really wanted to leave my full-time job in real estate. Now, I kept feeling like this was going to happen for me every month. I was like, okay, I just have to wait until certain things, which I won't mention in this video, occur, and then, I'm going to leave this job. And it just didn't happen. I got to October and I was like, all right, I'm going to resign. And the whole, half the year I was like, okay, maybe this is going to happen with the final square between Saturn and Uranus. But then I resigned in October and I was like, all right, well, I'm giving a month. I guess this is, when I'm resigning, and it's nothing to do with the square. Lo and behold, I'm staying on in my full-time role until well, the day before the Saturn and Uranus square. So that's just an example. Obviously, this can impact you in a number of different ways, but I can tell you now that many of my clients have been trying to relocate since February, or at least since the beginning of the year. Many of my clients have been, in an on and off again relationship with another person since the beginning of the year. Many people that I've spoken to have had some kind of long-standing issue for the course of this whole year, or something that they're trying to accomplish, whether this is exiting some kind of unsavory situation, or if they're trying to introduce something new. Essentially, this square on a personal level is about you trying to introduce something new into your life while you tear down an old system which no longer works for you. Now, on a larger scale or on a global level, obviously the way that this Saturn square Uranus transit has been playing out has been to do with lockdowns and restrictions. Okay, Aquarius represents people. It represents freedom of information. Aquarius is associated with the internet and social media and friendship and communities and basically large groups of people. Now, Saturn represents restrictions and limitations, and in astrology, Saturn also represents the government. So this basically shows how we have been impacted and limited in our ability to socialize, in our ability to speak freely, in basically the censorship of social media platforms, or social media as it is, or not just social media, obviously on the internet as well. And this just shows how we have not been able to socialize because Aquarius is an air sign. So Saturn represents there being some kind of obstacle or challenge that we have to overcome. This particular Saturn in Aquarius period has been characterized by social distancing. So that is what has been foisted upon us at a global level. Now, this square to Uranus shows where the disruption has occurred. Now, Taurus represents finances, wealth. It rules over food. It rules over shopping. And with this whole situation, we've essentially witnessed the biggest transfer of wealth in, I believe, history. Now, like I said, the disruption has occurred to finances, resources, food, toilet paper and all that stuff. So essentially, the Uranus in Taurus element shows where the shock has come through, or where the sudden change and the upheaval has come through. Now, Taurus represents shop owners. So basically, our regular small businesses have been largely affected by the whole, let's just call it the situation. And this Saturn square Uranus transit is obviously heading for a big climax. Now, do I think that it's going to take place right before Christmas? No, I don't. And that is because Saturn and Uranus will almost form a fourth square next year in 2022. So essentially, we haven't seen the end of certain situations yet, but I'm sure that we are going to see some kind of headline in the news around Christmas time, whether that's, a couple days before or even during that particular week. Now, on the 29th or 30th of December, depending where you live in the world, we are going to see Jupiter re-enter the sign of Pisces. So it spent 10 weeks in Pisces back in mid-May through till the end of July in 2021. And now it's going to spend 4 months in Pisces before it moves into Aries. So Jupiter in Pisces is basically going to see people on a collective level embracing spirituality. And I mean astrology, tarot, meditation, past life regressions, and literally anything that you can think of when it comes to spirituality. And I'm sure that many of you who are already ahead of the curve have noticed that gradually, over the course of this year in particular, there has just been such a huge interest in spirituality. And look, of course, Jupiter being in Aquarius helps as well. But really, Jupiter in Pisces just indicates that people are wanting to heal. They're wanting to explore something beyond the tangible. They're wanting to receive healings and readings and get into psychology and basically understand themselves at a deep and psychological level. So this cycle of Jupiter in Pisces will revolutionize the way that people respond to spirituality as a whole. And that is especially the case because we are going to see the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction in Pisces, and this will take place in April next year. So it will no longer be unusual for regular non-spiritual people to have a conversation with someone who says, oh yeah, I was just, speaking to my astrologer, or my tarot reader said this, this isn't going to be classed as woo-woo anymore. This is the norm. And I've seen this occur within my own family and within my own social circle. Granted, I was the first person to be into astrology in terms of the people that I know at the level that I'm into it, but still, it's the ripple effect because Pisces rules over the collective and Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So there is an expansion of knowledge that is available. There is a wealth of wisdom that is available and that is basically rippling out through the collective when it comes to astrology, when it comes to anything to do with spirituality and healing and Reiki and, dealing with clairvoyants and psychics and tarot readers. All of this stuff is going to blow up. Now, I also think that spirituality is going to be glamorized by Hollywood, and that is because Jupiter represents influential figures in society. So we're going to see so many people in the public eye or so many celebrities who are going to speak more freely about their experiences with astrologers, psychics, clairvoyants, energy healings, and also Jupiter in Pisces represents paranormal experiences or experiences with the spirit realm or basically receiving messages from the other side. Now, Jupiter in Pisces is going to see people embracing the idea of angel numbers or synchronicities or, receiving messages in non-conventional forms. And this is beyond the grave that I'm talking about. So anyway, Jupiter in Pisces is going to be such a spiritual time. There's going to be healing taking place on such a deep level in terms of the collective, but also on a very, very personal level as well. Hey Aries, welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. Let's talk about how this total solar eclipse is going to impact you. This is going to be occurring in your 9th house, and your 9th house in astrology represents travel, education, your world beliefs. It represents import and export, and it also represents your connection to a higher faith, whether this is spirituality, you being religious, you being agnostic, or perhaps this is about your beliefs when it comes to none of this being real or true. So essentially, this total solar eclipse occurring in your 9th house will show there being some kind of powerful new beginning taking place when it comes to your world beliefs. What you currently believe will be turned on its axes. You will not have the same set of beliefs of when it comes to spirituality, religion, politics, your world beliefs after this eclipse has taken place. Now, on a different level, this can see you basically having some kind of idea or vision for your future and what it is that you want to achieve. Given that Jupiter will be in your 11th house, which represents your long-term goals and dreams, this eclipse is likely to usher in some kind of exciting new vision for your future, which you want to pursue and which you want to set some goals towards achieving. Now, because this eclipse is conjunct Mercury, which rules over your 6th house of work, and your 3rd house, which represents projects, this can show you studying something new because you want to educate yourself on the matter and eventually want to turn this into a money-making business. And I'm saying that because the 3rd house represents self-made worth. So for many of you Aries, you'll be wanting to change what you do for work. You'll be wanting to travel internationally. You may be looking at planning some kind of trip which is going to impact your writing projects, your communications projects, that which you want to study, what you want to do for work, or perhaps you're wanting to travel to a foreign country because it is something that you have always wanted to do, or because you feel that visiting this country will somehow be involved with the legacy that you want to leave. And of course, many of you Aries will start some sort of new form of education. You may be changing courses altogether. Some of you may actually be graduating, as represented by this eclipse being with the South Node. But in any case, the areas of change that you are going to experience will be education, travel, and your belief systems. Now, as far as Venus being retrograde in Capricorn is concerned, well, Venus rules over your second house, which represents your finances and resources. And it also rules over your seventh house, which represents your one-on-one relationships and partnerships. Now, Venus being retrograde in your 10th house, which represents your career, your life path, your highest possible worldly achievements and positions of leadership that you hold, basically indicates that you are reevaluating who you want to be affiliated with. You are reevaluating your one-on-one relationships. This can see some of you getting back together with an ex, and that is because the seventh house represents marriage. And, just a notable example is back in the last Venus retrograde period in Capricorn, Eminem remarried his wife for a second time. That's just a random tidbit that I'm throwing out there. Nonetheless, though, this can see you renegotiating your contracts when it comes to your pay. And this is because Venus rules over your second house, which represents your finances and resources. Now, the Venus and Pluto conjunction in your 10th house can essentially see you transforming your public image. Your public reputation will not be the same after December and especially March. That's when you'll be tying up the loose ends. And that is because Pluto rules over your 8th house, which represents a transformation. So this can see you transforming in terms of the responsibilities that you have on a professional level, or even just your worldly responsibilities. In any case, this is a very transformative time for you with regard to your career and your life purpose. And for those of you who are retired, this can basically just impact you in the sense that, you may be walking away from a career, you may be changing industries, or you may be, retiring altogether. Or perhaps you're having this second wave or this rebirth of being like, okay, well, yeah, maybe retired, but I'm not done yet. There's more that I want to achieve with my life. Now, if you're wanting to know how the Jupiter in Pisces transit is going to impact you, please subscribe to this channel because I will be discussing it in depth in my January 2021 videos. December's going to be one hell of a month for us Taurians. With this total solar eclipse occurring in Sagittarius in your 8th house, this will essentially lead to there being a new development when it comes to your mutual resources. So for those of you who are in committed relationships, your partner may get a pay rise, or there could be new resources coming in from your business partner. You could be joining forces with another person, and by forces I mean resources, and this can see you basically maybe joining bank accounts with your significant other, or you can be pooling your resources together with another person. This can lead to there being an inheritance, or for some of you there can be a very big focus on psychological matters. So you may start seeing a psychologist, or you could take it one step further and really get into the occult side of things. So you may start getting into astrology or tarot, or things that are considered to be quite taboo in nature. Now, with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 9th house, and with Venus being your chart ruler, this can essentially see you totally shaking up what your belief systems are. So you may be reevaluating your religious beliefs, or your spiritual beliefs, or your beliefs surrounding world politics. Now, for some of you, you may be revisiting a country that you've traveled to before, or for those of you who have been basically living abroad or traveling for a long period of time, your trip abroad or your time traveling in another country may come to a close. Now, given that Venus rules over your 6th house, which represents your work, you may decide that you don't want to work internationally anymore, or that you don't want to keep traveling for your job. On a different level though, the ninth house represents seeing the bigger picture and, your vision for the future. And because Venus is your chart ruler and it rules over your sixth house of work, this can see you basically making some huge life-changing decisions when it comes to what you want to do going forwards. And this doesn't just need to be work. Venus ruling over the sixth house also indicates your health. So you may be making some enormous, totally life-altering lifestyle choices, and this is to support your vision for the future. Maybe you haven't been able to study the things that you'd like to study or travel to the places that you'd like to travel, or there could have just been something that you've always wanted to do, but your daily life has held you back or impeded your ability to pursue these things. So again, with Venus being retrograde in your ninth house, there's going to be an enormous focus on what you want to do with your life going forwards. And because the Venus-Pluto conjunctions are going to be taking place in your ninth house, this can see you basically cutting ties with certain people. And this is because Pluto rules over your seventh house, which represents your personal one-on-one relationships. So maybe you are calling quits with your significant other. The ninth house represents marriage. So this could see you walking away from a marriage. And I really do believe that this would be your decision because Venus is your chart ruler. So this represents what you're doing. But it doesn't just have to affect your significant relationships though. This affects relationships on all different levels. So some of you Taurians may simply meet with an influential figure or receive some kind of guidance or advice as represented by the ninth house, and this could completely change your life. Now, I'm not going to go into the Jupiter Pisces transit for today. I'm going to cover that in extensive detail when I'm back to doing my individual horoscopes in January. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel if you want to see my next horoscope. And of course, please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Gemini, this solar eclipse is going to be huge, and that is because it is taking place in your seventh house, which represents your one-on-one partnerships and relationships. And because this total solar eclipse is conjunct Mercury, which is of course your chart ruler, this is going to have a profound impact on you. So in one way, shape or form, at least one or more of your personal connections or relationships with other people will be hugely impacted by this. And for many of you, this can actually show there being a new committed relationship on the horizon. And that is because the seventh house represents marriage, and the seventh house represents commitments and promises and vows. So some of you may be getting proposed to, some of you may meet your future life partner. And for those of you who are already in committed romantic relationships, this can see there being a huge development in the life of your significant other. On a different level though, this can see there being a new business partnership forming or some kind of new collaboration. So someone new will walk into your life, or this could be a correspondence over the internet. Nonetheless, there will be a new opportunity that comes through. Now, in terms of the timing of events that are associated with an eclipse, they can occur on the eclipse or within 10 days before or 10 days after. And even if you meet someone who is going to be your friend or your significant other or a business partner, you may not form the initial relationship or the connection immediately. It may take another 3 months or even 6 months for the dust to settle. But essentially, total solar eclipses in your seventh house will bring about enormous changes to one or more of your personal relationships with other people. Now, as far as Venus retrograde is concerned, this is occurring in your 8th house, and Venus rules over your 12th house, which is another very psychological house, and it also rules over your 5th house of romance. So with Venus retrograde in your 8th house, you can be doing a lot of deep digging into why you are self-sabotaging in relationships, or you can be doing some digging into why your existing romantic relationship is not in the place where you want it to be. And on a different level, the 5th house represents your confidence, your creativity, and it also rules over children. So some of you may be doing some deep digging into issues that you have with your children, or you may totally change your mind about whether or not you even want to have children. And that is because the 8th house represents sudden transformation or sudden reversals. Now, on a different level, many Geminis will be changing up their business, and this is because the 5th house represents our business. So you may be reviving it, you may be pulling the pin, okay, because the 8th house represents death, well, metaphorical death as well. So this can see you basically closing up shop, shutting down the business that you already have, or if you had pushed the pause button on it, or if you put your plans on hold, you may be reviving them now, or you may be going through some kind of rebranding or a relaunch or a remodeling of your business. In any case, Venus retrograde in the 8th house can basically see you having some enormous epiphanies when it comes to self-sabotaging behavior, your romantic relationships, relationship with children, and also the way that you express yourself creatively speaking. Now, I'm not going to cover the Jupiter in Pisces transit today, but if you'd like to see more information about this, first of all, you can subscribe to the channel, and I will be covering this in detail in my January horoscopes next month. Or you could even purchase your yearly horoscope, because I do a huge segment on Jupiter in Pisces. And of course, if you want to purchase your horoscope, the link is in the description box below. Well, Cancer, this total solar eclipse is occurring in your 6th house, and the 6th house relates to our work, our health, and our daily habits and routines. So many of you Cancerians are going to change jobs, change roles, change industries. You may resign, you may retire from the workforce altogether, you may become self-employed. You know, there's so many different ways that this solar eclipse can impact you on a work level. Even if you are not changing jobs or changing departments, this can see there being a brand new development with regard to a work project. Or you may be welcoming a new boss on board. You may be hiring employees or expanding your business in some way, shape, or form. Now, on the health front, this can see you completely changing your daily habits. So you may be working out more. You may be committing to, if not a workout regime, maybe a new diet. There may be some certain goals that you want to set for yourself. And because this is a total solar eclipse and it involves the moon, which is, obviously your ruling planet, this can see you having some kind of epiphany when it comes to how you can improve your health. So you may have a new health goal that you want to achieve, and this total solar eclipse will bring in the inspiration for you to really pursue this goal with vigor. Now, with Venus being retrograde in your 7th house of your one-on-one relationships and partnerships, this can essentially see there being huge developments within your family life. And this is because Venus rules over your 4th house, which represents your family, and it also represents your property and your living circumstances. So there may actually be some changes to who you're living with. There may be people moving in or moving out. You may be moving in with family, or family may be moving in with you. Venus represents relationships of all kinds. And of course, Capricorn represents all personal relationships. So this could still be with friends or flatmates and so on and so forth. But in some way, shape, or form, there's likely to be some big changes within your family life dynamics. And this could simply just be the relationship that you have to your parents, even if it's not affecting your household on a physical level. On a different level though, with Venus ruling over your 11th house, which is Taurus, which represents your friendships and your long-term goals and dreams, this can see you basically changing your level of involvement in certain communities or groups or friendship circles. This can see you reconnecting with old friends, or perhaps there's been an on and off friendship that you've been involved in which just doesn't make the cut anymore. So you may actually have a significant falling out with a friend during this period of time. Of course, though, the 7th house does still represent your significant other. So this can see you reevaluating your relationship with this individual. There can be some pretty groundbreaking conversations that you have where you basically state your set of values or what your standards are, what your expectations are. And that is because Capricorn represents our standards. Venus represents our values and it rules over the fourth house. So if you have certain standards or expectations when it comes to the relationship that your significant other has with your family, this could be a big area of discussion, or it could be about how you raise your children. And even if you're not in a committed relationship, this can actually see you changing up your ideas about what you want for your family life, whether this is to start a family or not. And for those of you who are single parents, this can see you basically changing your mind about whether you want to enter into a relationship with another person. And of course, that could go either way. Now, if you're wanting to see how the Jupiter in Pisces transit is going to impact you, I recommend that you subscribe to this channel because I will be discussing it in depth in my January 2022 videos. But of course, I discuss this in explicit detail and at length in my 2022 yearly horoscopes. So if you're wanting to purchase your horoscope today, you can do so using the link in the description box below. Leos, if you're not already aware, new moon solar eclipses will always have an enormous impact on you no matter what sign it is in. And that is because the sun rules you. So basically, the same way that Mercury retrogrades really affect Geminis and Virgos, is how eclipses affect you. And of course, lunar eclipses affect Cancerians. So jot that down because all eclipses will have a profound impact on you. And this is where you will see the biggest shifts occurring in your life. Now, for this one specifically, it's occurring in your fifth house. So this is such a lucky house. It's connected to our Dharma. The fifth house is connected to joy and our passions and our hobbies, and also it represents how we express ourselves. So with this total solar eclipse occurring in your fifth house, on one level, some of you for sure are going to be falling pregnant around this time, especially Moon in Leo individuals. Now, on a different level, this can indicate a new romance entering your life. And this is because the fifth house represents dating and romance. Now, even if it's not an actual relationship that takes place, this can see you basically deciding to get back out there and start dating again. Now, for those of you who do have children, there is likely to be a powerful change in the life or the lives of one or more of your children. More specifically, the fifth house represents your firstborn child. Nonetheless, this can see them making changes in their relationships with other people, what they want to do with work, career, all the big life-changing stuff. Now, the fifth house represents starting our own business. So some of you may be starting your own business, or if you already have your own business, because this particular eclipse is ruled by Jupiter, which represents expansion, some of you may be supersizing your business and expanding it further. Now, on a different level, the fifth house represents our creative gifts and our hobbies and our passions. So this can see you starting something new and starting something creative. The fifth house rules over dance, performance. It rules over creative projects and artistic endeavors. So you may be starting some kind of new creative project, which you are going to find very, very fulfilling. Now, with regard to Venus being retrograde in Capricorn, this is going to occur in your sixth house. Now, Venus rules over your third house, which represents your communications, and it also rules over your 10th house, which represents your public reputation and your vocation, your life path, your life goals, and your career, and so on and so forth. So it's interesting that we've got the 6th and the 10th houses both being activated here, which are very much connected to work. Now, Venus retrograde represents a reevaluation taking place. So this can see you applying for a promotion that you missed out on. This can see you trying to reignite some kind of alliance or partnership that you had with another person on a business level. And for some of you, this could see you actually relinquishing certain responsibilities in the workplace. Now, with Venus being retrograde in your 6th house and ruling over your 3rd house, which represents communications, this can see you having to revisit some kind of communications piece. Now, this can be a report, an article, an essay, or this could be, YouTube videos, maybe you're starting up your channel again, as represented by the third house ruling over social media. And with Venus being retrograde in your sixth house, which represents your daily habits, this can actually see you changing up what kind of daily information you consume, or what kind of literature you read, or what kind of music you listen to. Now, Leo, if you're wanting to know how the Jupiter in Pisces transit is going to impact you, you can subscribe to this channel because I will be covering it at length in my January 2022 horoscopes. Of course, I've also covered this topic in explicit detail in my 2022 yearly horoscopes. So if you're wanting to purchase your horoscope for 2022, you can do so using the link in the description box below. So Virgo, this total solar eclipse is occurring in your fourth house, which represents your property, your living circumstances, your home life, and your family. And of course, this total solar eclipse will be conjunct Mercury, which is your ruling planet. So you guessed it, this total solar eclipse is going to have such an enormous impact on you. I'm personally very, very excited for this eclipse because I've been looking to purchase a home for literally 2 years, and I'm just banking on this to come through for me as a Virgo moon. Nonetheless, for you guys, this can certainly lead to a change of residence. This can lead to buying, selling, putting someone else on the lease, breaking lease. This can see your living circumstances changing just on a very general level. Now, this can see people moving in with you or people moving out. And as I said that, my candle went out. Nonetheless, with the fourth house ruling over your family and more specifically your mother, there can be a very significant development. Oh my gosh, this just keeps going and going. Sorry. This can see there being a very significant development which occurs in her life. So there can be some sort of powerful new chapter starting in the life of your mother. Having said that, it could be your father as well. In any case, so the fourth house represents your ancestry and your lineage. So some of you Virgos will be doing a deep dive into finding out more about your ancestors and about your cultural roots. Now, with Venus being retrograde in your fifth house, I'm just so excited for you Virgos because this is really going to shake things up in a good way. And I know you've just heard that sentence being like, nothing good ever comes from things being shaken up. Nonetheless, if you have had a real dry spell when it comes to relationships, this can see you actually getting back out there, dating again. You will have an influx of suitors or people who are attracted to your energy. And of course, you know, this is indicated with Venus ruling over your second house, which represents your self-worth, and it rules over your wardrobe and how you express yourself. I mean, the fifth house does as well. You know, they're very linked when it comes to self-esteem, self-confidence, and how we express ourselves. And really, with Venus, it's representing fashion and design. And with the fifth house also ruling over fashion and your self-confidence and how you're expressing yourself, this can see you basically just changing up your wardrobe, changing up your appearance, and in this way you are attracting people to you. Now, because Venus rules over your ninth house, which represents your long-term vision for the future, this can see you changing your mind about what kind of partner you want to attract, what you want in a relationship. And even if you are in a committed relationship with someone at the moment, this can see you realigning your values and basically getting on the same page with one another. And if that doesn't occur, this can certainly see you calling it quits with, you know, your significant other. You may just decide that you don't have the same values anymore, as represented by Venus ruling over your second house. And for some of you, it may come down to whether or not you want children, as represented by the fifth house itself. And on the children front, this can see you changing your mind about whether you want to have kids or not, whether you want to have more children or not. And for those of you who are estranged from your child, and this could very well be your third born child, especially because Venus rules over the ninth house, this could actually see you reconnecting with your child or with your children. And for some of you, this could be reestablishing your relationship, talking again after you haven't spoken for a long time, or even if you're not in that category, perhaps you have just had a lot of miscommunications or difficulties within your relationship with your children, and this Venus retrograde period can see you relating to them on a different level and actually ironing out your differences once and for all. Now, if you're interested to see how the Jupiter in Pisces transit is going to impact you, you can subscribe to the channel because I will be covering this in explicit detail in my January 2022 horoscopes. But of course, if you don't want to wait and you want to know now how that's going to affect you, you can purchase your 2022 yearly horoscope. I've got a link in the description box below. And let me tell you, with Jupiter entering your 7th house of one-on-one relationships, if that is a huge area of focus for you, chef's kiss, there's a lot of good things happening with that. So enjoy your December 2021, and I will see you guys next time. Libra, this total solar eclipse is going to be sextiling you. So this is super exciting because it's occurring in your 3rd house, and the 3rd house is connected to self-made worth. Now, the 3rd house also rules over education, learning new skills and talents, apprenticeships, and the 3rd house is connected to communications and projects, really, which involve writing, reporting, and all of those sorts of things which involve media. So some of you Libras may be starting your own business, you may be expanding your business further, and this is because this total solar eclipse is conjunct Mercury, and Mercury rules over marketing, media, products, services, and sales. So there can be a huge expansion of your existing business. Some of you may be starting to write a new book, starting a new website, developing a new app, or you may be writing a new blog. You know, the 3rd house is linked to writing projects of all kinds. On a different level though, some of you may start some kind of new education course or program. And this could involve tests and examinations as represented by the 3rd house. And given that it is occurring in the sign of Sagittarius, this could be connected to languages, international studies, foreign politics. This could be you wanting to learn how to fly a plane or a helicopter, and this is because Sagittarius represents air travel. Now, Sagittarius also rules over culture, so maybe you're looking at, you know, learning about different cultures. Even if you're not looking into foreign politics or foreign policy making, you could just be looking at some kind of culture which is different to your own. In any case, I see this as being a very exciting total solar eclipse for you, especially because, like I said, it will be sextiling your sign. Now, Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 4th house is going to see there being so many changes with regard to your family life, property matters, and your dynamics at home. And this is because Venus is your chart ruler, and Venus also rules over your 8th house, which is Taurus. And the 8th house represents sudden change and transformation, really. So your home life or your living circumstances will be transformed on a very profound level. Now, on a different level, this can be you relocating, and this is because the 4th house represents where you actually live, and Venus represents your chart ruler, so this represents what you're doing. Now, because this is retrograde, you may be returning to a place that you have lived before, or a place where you have wanted to live, or perhaps this decision to relocate has been one that is long and drawn out. Now, it doesn't actually have to be somewhere where you have lived before or wanted to live before, and that is because the 8th house represents sudden change. So it could just be that this relocation is coming off the back of a very recent relocation. So maybe you're just moving again and again and again. Now, with Venus being retrograde in your 4th house, and of course forming a conjunction with Pluto in your 4th house, this can indicate that there are going to be enormous changes with your familial relationships, more specifically with your mother, although it could be with your father. Whoever the primary caregiver was is indicated by the 4th house, and essentially this can see you reconnecting with this family member. Let's just call it a family member. So you could be reestablishing your relationship with them, you could be reconnecting with them, or if you have been considering breaking ties or cutting your connection with this individual for a very, very long time, you could actually finally execute that decision. So essentially, your relationship with your family is likely to transform, and there's likely to be changes within your living circumstances. So even if you are not relocating, it could be that someone is moving in or that someone is moving out, or maybe you're just doing a significant overhaul when it comes to redecorating where you currently live. Now, if you're wanting to know how Jupiter in Pisces is going to impact you, you can subscribe to the channel because I will be covering this in depth in my January 2022 horoscopes. And next month, I'll be back to my individual 12 separate horoscopes. But if you're wanting to find out now how that's going to affect you, you can purchase your 2022 yearly horoscope. If you're wanting to do so, the link is in the description box below. Scorpio, your values, finances, and resources are going to experience a total overhaul. And that is because this total solar eclipse is going to occur in your second house. So many of you Scorpios are going to introduce some kind of new stream of financial income into your life, or this could be new resources coming in. And even if you're not doing the introduction, it's coming to you. And this is because total solar eclipses indicate a powerful new beginning starting somewhere in our lives. And the second house literally does represent your finances. So this can see you having some kind of new stream of income, or you may be letting go of an old stream of income so that you can start pursuing something else. And I'm saying that because the South Node is in the second house. So it can be like spending a bit of money to gain money. Now, given that Mercury rules over your 8th house, which represents your mutual resources, it could be that you are going to combine your resources with another person, or maybe you are receiving some kind of increase in your finances or in your resources as a result of your significant other, your business partner, or if you have services that you offer or products that you sell. The sales that you make from these may be, supplementing this increase in your income. Now, given that this total solar eclipse is conjunct Mercury, and Mercury rules over your 11th house, which represents your long-term goals and dreams, even if you are not seeing a new stream of income take place within the next 3 to 6 months, it could be that you are investing money into your long-term goals and dreams. And this is representative of the fact that the 11th house is all about the legacy that you want to leave behind. Or maybe there's something that you've always wanted to do, and now this total solar eclipse is just making you realize that you do have the funds or the resources to be able to invest in these dreams. In any case, there may be an epiphany that takes place or some kind of correspondence that comes through around the time of the eclipse, if not, maybe 10 days before or 10 days after. And then you may see the fruition of this in 3 months' time or even in 6 months' time. Now, as for Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 3rd house, this can see you renegotiating your contracts. And this is because the 3rd house represents contracts, and the 7th house also rules over contracts because it represents our personal relationships. So this can see there being some huge changes when it comes to your collaborations or when it comes to your business connections or maybe even clients. And this is because Venus itself represents relationships. And again, we've got these 2 contract houses being impacted by this particular retrograde period. So maybe you are deciding that you don't want to do business with certain people anymore. Maybe you want to change up your level of input. Given that Venus rules over your 12th house, which represents losses, this can see you wanting to let go of certain relationships or let go of certain responsibilities. Now, because the 3rd house represents communications, writing, projects, and clients, and also the day-to-day stuff like meetings and emails and just communications, generally speaking, maybe you're wanting to take a step back from this and put more of this onto your business partner. Now, as far as your romantic relationship is concerned, given that Venus rules over your 7th house, this can see you wanting to make changes to a prenup or make changes to what tasks or what duties you and your partner have within this particular relationship. And for some of you, you may my other candle went out. So, I was just about to say this can see you reconnecting with someone who you used to be involved with. And this is because the third house represents communications. Venus rules over the seventh house, which represents romantic partnerships. So again, this can just see you reaching out to a former partner, or you may be hearing from them. Now, if you're wanting to know how Jupiter in Pisces will impact you, you can subscribe to the channel because I will be discussing this at length in my January 2022 videos. If you're not wanting to wait though, I go into such explicit detail about this transit in my 2022 yearly horoscopes. So if you want to purchase yours, you can do so by heading to the link in the description. This total solar eclipse is going to have a profound impact on you, Sagittarius, because it is occurring in your sign at 12 degrees. And because this eclipse is conjunct Mercury, this is also going to have a huge impact on your career, because Mercury rules over your 10th house in Virgo, which represents your public reputation, your vocation, your life purpose, and your career. And of course, Mercury rules over your 7th house, which represents your personal relationships and connections. And it also represents marriage as well. So, of course, this can impact you on all those different levels. You may enter into a new industry for work. You may resign or retire. You may be receiving a promotion. You may be elevated to a position of leadership. You may be breaking off certain relationships and making way for new relationships. And this can see some of you meeting your soulmate. Now, given that Mercury rules over your 7th house, which represents your relationships, some of you may decide that you want to walk away from your marriage. And I'm saying this because the South Node is in Sagittarius, which represents sacrificing something. So you may be sacrificing something to welcome something new in. So maybe you're trying to make space for these new dreams that you have, or these goals that you have for yourself. When eclipses are in your sign, it can impact you on all 4 of the angular houses. So this can basically see there being changes to your home life and your property and your living circumstances. And this is because Jupiter rules your 1st house and your 4th house. And with this eclipse being conjunct Mercury, which rules over your 7th house and 10th houses, you can see how all 4 of the angular houses are impacted by this particular eclipse. So it can really affect you, like I said, in all of those areas. Now, with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 2nd house, this can see there being huge changes to your finances and resources. Now, Venus rules over your 6th house, which represents your work. So there may be a change in your pay. You may be receiving money that you have been waiting for a long time, or you could be renegotiating your contracts. And of course, with the 6th house ruling over debts and legal matters, if there is a long-standing debt, or if you've lent money to someone and this is really overdue, you may actually receive it. And this is indicated by the fact that Venus rules over your 11th house, which is Libra, and the 11th house rules over friends, and also it rules over older siblings, and it rules over your business connections. So if people owe you money, you may be receiving it during this period of time. Now, with the 11th house representing investors and with Venus representing money, and of course the 2nd house represents finances and resources, there may be some changes to people who said that they would invest in whatever it is that you have initiated. So this could be for work, this could be a Kickstarter program, this could be to do with the stock market. In some way, shape or form, you can see some movement there. And of course, with the 11th house ruling over cryptocurrencies, you may actually be cashing in on your cryptos. Now, if you want to know how Jupiter transiting Pisces in your 4th house is going to impact you, you can subscribe to the channel because I will be discussing this at length in my January 2022 videos. But if you can't wait and you want to know how that's going to impact you now, you can purchase your 2022 yearly horoscope, and I'll leave a link in the description box for you below. So Capricorn, you're having this total solar eclipse occur in your 12th house. So this total solar eclipse in the 12th house can see you experiencing some kind of profound spiritual experience. So this could be you receiving messages from the other side. This could be you seeing a psychic or a clairvoyant or an astrologer or a tarot reader, or you could be doing your own independent study and research into these things yourself. Now, given that Mercury rules over your 9th house, which represents seeing the bigger picture and your vision for the future, and of course Sagittarius shares those themes in common, this can see you seeking answers that the material world or that the physical world are not able to provide you with. So I'm sure that many Capricorns are going to do a deep dive into spirituality. Now, on a practical level, the 12th house represents foreign, faraway lands. It represents retreats, day spas, the hotel industry, and it also rules over creativity and music. So it could be that you are starting some kind of new business venture with regard to one of those topics. And this is indicated by the fact that Mercury rules over your 6th house, which represents your work environment. Now, on a different level, you could be going to some kind of retreat, and this could be motivated by looking after your health. So basically, with Mercury ruling over the 6th house, which represents your health, maybe you're doing this for your mental health. So you could be going to a retreat where you don't speak, or it could be a retreat in a foreign, faraway land. And of course, you could be looking at opening up an Airbnb or getting involved in the tourism industry. And that is because Sagittarius represents tourism. Mercury, which is conjunct the eclipse, rules over your 9th house, and this also indicates the tourism industry, so that could be a big area of focus for you. Now, as for Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 1st house, this is going to have such a transformative impact on your relationships, on your ability to express yourself creatively, and of course on your career and your life purpose as well. And that is because Venus rules over your 5th house as well as your 10th house. Now, we have not seen Venus be retrograde in the sign of Capricorn since 2014. So if you cast your mind back to January 2014, you'll realize that similar themes will be cropping up for you, which occurred then. So with Venus retrograde in your 1st house, this can see you transforming yourself in the public eye. So this can be to do with your career, your public reputation, your highest worldly achievements, and positions of leadership. So essentially, for those of you who own your own business, with Venus ruling over the 5th house, this can see you rebranding, or you could be making changes to your level of involvement in that business. Now, on the romantic front, this can see you reevaluating whether you want to be in this relationship anymore. So you may be breaking up with your significant other, or you may actually be getting back together with your significant other. Now, with this Venus-Pluto conjunction occurring in your 1st house, this will have a very profound impact on all Capricorns, but especially the ones who have their Capricorn sun, moon, or rising at 25 degrees. And I'm going to give this a 1 degree orb. So 24, 25, or 26 degree Capricorns will feel this the most. Basically, this conjunction will see you wanting to reinvent yourself and transform yourself. And for some of you, this could look like a weight loss journey. For others of you, this could look like changing up your whole entire appearance, especially because Venus rules over the 5th house, and the 5th house is connected to fashion. And not that I want to be using terms like fashion when I'm discussing a Venus-Pluto conjunction, but really how you dress yourself, how you present yourself, all of this is going to be themes that you are considering on a very deep psychological level. And of course, this conjunction between Venus and Pluto in your 1st house will be illuminating for you when it comes to you realizing why you have limited yourself in your self-expression, why you have restricted yourself when it comes to dating and relationships. Or for others of you, this could be you limiting yourself or not allowing yourself to pursue what you actually want to do with regard to your career or your life purpose. You know, it doesn't need to be only those who are involved in the workforce. Maybe this is looking at life after work. What does retirement look like for you? Maybe you're wanting to reinvent yourself, or maybe you are having some kind of profound and deep transformation which is occurring when it comes to how you experience joy and how you treat yourself and indulge yourself. All of these are Venusian topics, and of course, with Venus ruling over your 5th house, this is representative of all those things. It's allowing yourself to pursue happiness. It's allowing yourself to experience joy. And now, Capricorn, if you want to hear more about how Venus retrograde will impact you, you can do so by purchasing your 2022 yearly horoscope. I will leave a link in the description box below. So I hope you enjoy your December 2021, and I will see you guys next time. This total solar eclipse in Sagittarius is going to occur in your 11th house. Now, the 11th house in astrology is considered to be the house of popularity. And of course, it is the house that is associated with the sign of Aquarius. So this total solar eclipse in your 11th house can see you having a new long-term goal or dream that you want to pursue. And for some of you, this could involve inventing something new or innovating something new. This could be developing a new social media system, or this could be you forming some kind of new community or group. And even if you are not the initiator or not the creator, you could be joining a new community or group. You could be making new friends or joining a new friendship circle. Now, given that Mercury rules over your 5th house, which represents that which we create, this can see you wanting to expand your business if you already own one, or even if there are certain projects that you have already started working on, there can be some new developments here. Maybe you're wanting to organize some kind of large scale event, and this is indicated by the 11th house itself. In any case, given that this total solar eclipse will be conjunct Mercury, and Mercury rules over your 8th house, which represents mutual resources, it may just be that you are getting new investors on board to support your long-term goals or dreams, or perhaps you are going to receive the assistance and help and maybe finances or resources of people who have, well, much needed resources who can assist you with your quest. Now, with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 12th house and ruling over your 4th house and your 9th house, this can see you basically doing a real deep dive into your childhood influences. And really, this is all about you analyzing your psychological foundations. The 4th house and the 9th house are both connected with the mother and father figures in our lives. So even if you are not in contact with your biological parents, or even if you were raised by adoptive parents or foster parents or someone else, essentially this can see you analyzing how these relationships have impacted you and your ability to forecast for the future. And I'm saying this because the 12th house is a very psychological house, but it is also the house of self-sabotage. And Venus rules over your 9th house, which is Libra. And the 9th house represents seeing the bigger picture and being able to have hope and faith for when it comes to our long-term goals and what we want our future to look like. So essentially, this can see you reevaluating your family relationships and being able to recognize where self-sabotaging behaviors have harmed your ability to forecast for the future, or for some of you with Venus ruling over your 4th house, which represents your home life and your family life, you may have basically been self-sabotaging when it comes to settling down. And I don't necessarily mean the whole wife and kids thing. It could just be setting roots down so that you have some sense of stability in terms of your actual living circumstances. Now, on a different level, this can see you relocating to a foreign country, and this is indicated by the fact that the 4th house, which Venus rules over in Taurus, represents where you live, and being retrograde in the 12th house, which represents foreign, faraway lands, can indicate you, like I said, relocating to a foreign country. And with Venus ruling over the 9th house, which also represents international travel, this basically just supports that statement. And Aquarius, if you're wanting to know how the Jupiter in Pisces transit is going to impact you, you can do so by subscribing to the channel, because I will be discussing it at length in my January 2022 videos. And in my January videos, I will be returning to my 12 separate videos per sign format. Of course, if you don't want to wait, you can always purchase my 2022 yearly horoscopes. And if you want to do that, I'll leave a link in the description box for you below. Well, Pisces, this total solar eclipse is going to occur in your 10th house. And the 10th house represents your career, your life purpose, it represents your highest worldly achievements, and it also represents a change in your status. Now, because this eclipse is conjunct Mercury, which rules over your 7th house of one-on-one relationships and partnerships, for some of you, this can see you going from being single to being in a committed relationship per the status change, or you may actually get engaged. Some of you may actually be getting married, and on a different level, this can indicate the release of an old relationship. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be romantic. It could be that on a business level, you were associated with a certain brand or company, or there was a partnership or alliance that you were known for being involved in. Now, you could actually be dissolving this connection, and this could be to welcome in a new relationship or a new business connection. Now, this can see you getting promoted, changing jobs, changing industries, becoming your own boss. And for some of you, given that Mercury is conjunct this eclipse and ruling over the 4th house, which represents your home life and your property and your living circumstances, this change on a professional level could coincide with you actually buying a property, selling a property, or relocating from where you are currently living. Now, with Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 11th house, this can see you basically reevaluating what your long-term goals and dreams are. Now, because Venus rules over your 8th house, which represents sudden change, this can see there being a total change in what these dreams are, or what you want to do with your goals or with your legacy. And of course, if you have been working towards some kind of large-scale project or a long-term project, there could be a sudden reversal here. And this could involve relationships with investors, as represented by Venus ruling over your 8th house, which is Libra and which represents mutual resources. And of course, Venus itself is associated with relationships, and Venus rules over your 3rd house, which is Taurus. So this represents your business relationships, and the 11th house itself represents investors. So there could be some significant changes to finances and resources and the contribution of other people. Now, lastly, with the 11th house representing your friendships and with Venus ruling over your 3rd house, which also represents friendships, there may be some people that you have a falling out with, or you may be rejoining a friendship group or rejoining a community or a group that you used to be a part of. And of course, the most exciting part of December will be Jupiter transiting Pisces in your 1st house, but I'm actually going to cover this in my January 2022 videos. So if you want to know how Jupiter in Pisces is going to impact you, you can subscribe to this channel. But if you can't wait, I've actually covered this topic at length in my 2022 yearly horoscopes. So you can purchase your 2022 horoscope using the link in the description box below. But take care for now, and I will see you guys next time.